There is a figure within you that you spend your whole life trying to hide. It lives in the shadows of your consciousness, feeding on everything you reject, deny, and repress. You pretend it doesn't exist. You build social masks to keep it locked away. But it's there, watching, waiting, growing in the dark. Carl Jung called this the shadow. And he understood something that most people will never understand. That entity you fear, that dark side you repress so forcefully, is not your enemy. It is the key to discovering who you truly are. It is the gateway to your true purpose. Jung was not just a psychiatrist. He was an explorer of the unconscious, an archaeologist of the human soul. While Freud looked to the past trying to heal traumas, Jung looked into the inner abyss, trying to decipher a code. Why have we become strangers to ourselves? The answer lies in civilization. Since childhood, you have been conditioned to be good, to smile when you wanted to scream, to be grateful when you wanted to destroy, to accept when you wanted to rebel. Every unacceptable impulse was pushed into the basement of your psyche. And there, in the dark, these rejected fragments came together. They formed a parallel identity, a second version of you, made of everything you don't want to be. But here is the cruel paradox. The more you reject your shadow, the more it controls your life. It appears in your destructive relationships, in your inexplicable self-sabotage, in your secret addictions, in the anger that explodes without warning, in the envy you feel but never admit. The shadow doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It simply finds more subtle and more dangerous ways to manifest itself. Throughout this video, we'll delve into Carl Jung's most unsettling and liberating concept. We'll deconstruct the shadow effect, how it forms, how it dominates your life without you realizing it, and, most importantly, how integrating it can reveal the purpose you desperately seek. You will learn the technique that Jung called shadow integration, the alchemical process of transforming your inner demons into powerful allies. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's absolutely necessary if you want to live an authentic life. Prepare yourself, because what you are about to discover about yourself may be disturbing, but it will be true.
Law 1. The law of negation. Everything you reject in yourself, you project onto others. Jung realized something that revolutionized psychology. You don't see people as they are. You see them through the filter of your own shadow. When you feel disproportionate hatred for someone who didn't do anything that bad, when you obsessively criticize certain behaviors in others, when something about someone irritates you viscerally, you're not reacting to the person. You're reacting to the reflection of your own shadow in them. The person you hate is a reflection of what you don't accept in yourself. Jung called this projection. It's a primitive defense mechanism. Your mind takes the unacceptable aspects of yourself and projects them outward, attributing them to others. This way, you don't have to confront the disturbing truth. You possess exactly what you condemn. The moralist obsessed with judging other people's sexuality? They are repressing their own desires. The person who can't stand selfish people? They are denying their own selfishness. The one who constantly criticizes the falseness of others? They live wearing social masks. Robert Louis Stevenson didn't know it, but he wrote one of the most perfect metaphors for the Jungian shadow. Dr. Jekyll is the respectable, civilized, moral man, the perfect persona. But there is something inside him that he cannot accept. His dark impulses, his repressed violence, his desire to transgress. So he creates a potion, not to eliminate Mr. Hyde, to give him life, to completely separate himself from that which he rejects. The result? Hyde becomes stronger, more violent, more uncontrollable, until Jekyll can no longer contain him. The message is clear. The more you try to separate yourself from your shadow, the more power you give it. Observe your extreme emotional reactions. When someone intensely irritates you for no apparent reason, ask yourself, what is this person showing me about myself that I refuse to see? If you feel envious of someone, it's not because they're better than you. It's because they're experiencing something you desire but don't allow yourself to have. Envy is the shadow showing you a repressed desire. If you feel morally superior to others, beware. Moral superiority is often the most effective mask of the shadow. The greatest hypocrites are those who consider themselves most virtuous. The arsenal, practical application. Exercise, the projection map. 1. List 3 people you genuinely can't stand. 2. For each one, write exactly what irritates you about them, without filtering. Now ask the painful question, in what ways do I manifest this behavior, even subtly? This exercise is brutal, but it's the first step towards gathering your projections and taking responsibility for your own psyche.
Law 2. The law of compensation. The more intense your persona, the more powerful your shadow. Jung understood that we live on 2 simultaneous levels, the person, the social mask, and the shadow, the rejected self. And they exist in compensatory balance. The more rigid and perfect your persona is, the wilder and more dangerous your shadow is. Think about person. It's like the character you portray in the world. It's you at work, you with your family, you on social media. It's the edited, approved, socially acceptable version. The problem is that to maintain this performance, you need to sacrifice genuine parts of yourself.
If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support.
Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you feed the shadow. Every time you smile politely while seething with rage inside, you feed the shadow. Every time you perform kindness while feeling indifference, you feed the shadow. And the shadow does not forget. It accumulates. It waits. History is full of impeccable public figures who spectacularly crumbled. Religious leaders embroiled in sex scandals, moral activists caught in corruption, self-help gurus who committed suicide. It's not simple hypocrisy, it's compensation law in action. The more someone constructs a persona of moral perfection, the more psychic energy is needed to maintain the facade, and the more monstrous the shadow becomes behind the scenes. Jung saw this in his patients. Those who appeared most balanced in public were often the most disturbed in private. The perfect mask hides the inner chaos until the pressure becomes unbearable and the shadow explodes. Observe your own social performance. Are you constantly trying to impress, seeking validation, controlling every word to appear intelligent, successful, enlightened? This pressure comes at a cost. Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." The person who lives for external approval is asleep. Their life is a dream, a fantasy constructed for the applause of others. Meanwhile, their true self rots in the shadows, waiting for the moment to erupt. The arsenal, practical application. Exercise. Deconstruct your persona. 1. Identify your personal brand.
How do you want others to see you? Smart, cool, spiritual, successful? 2. Ask yourself, what can't I reveal without destroying this image? These forbidden aspects are your shadow. Write them down. I'm not saying you should destroy your persona, it's necessary for social functioning, but you need to know when you're performing and when you're being genuine. The difference saves lives.
Law 3. The law of gold in the mud. Your greatest strength lies buried in your greatest shame. This is the truth that Jung tried to communicate throughout his career. The shadow doesn't only contain negative aspects. Yes, she harbors her repressed anger, her denied envy, her hidden selfishness, but she also holds on to something infinitely more precious. The talents you were forbidden to develop, the passions you were taught to be ashamed of, the authenticity you sacrificed to be accepted. Jung used the metaphor of alchemy, transforming lead into gold. The shadow is the lead, dense, dark, rejected. But within it lies the gold of your genuine individuality, waiting to be transmuted. Were you overly creative as a child and told it was a waste of time? That creativity resides in the shadow. Were you too intense and learned to repress yourself? That intensity resides in the shadow. Did you have unrealistic ambitions and were taught to be humble? That greatness resides in the shadow. Society teaches us not only to suppress evil, but also to suppress greatness. Nietzsche, another explorer of the dark psyche, understood this profoundly. His concept of Superman wasn't about becoming perfect. It was about becoming full, integrating all aspects of oneself, including those that herd morality condemns. He used to say, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Chaos is the shadow. The star is your purpose. You don't find purpose by running from chaos. You find it by immersing yourself in it. Think about the impossible dreams you abandoned, not the superficial dreams, like, "I want to be famous," but the so-called deep dreams you silenced because they seemed too big, too dangerous, too selfish. These dreams haven't died. They reside in the shadow, transformed into resentment, frustration, a feeling of wasted life. Jung said that neurosis is a form of unlived creativity. Your purpose is hidden precisely where you're most afraid to look, in the ambitions you called crazy, in the talents you decided weren't practical, in the authenticity you sacrificed to be loved. The arsenal, practical application, exercise, rescue the gold. 1. Complete the sentence, "If I didn't care about anyone's opinion, I..." 2. What you wrote is part of your shadow, but it's the part golden. 3. Ask yourself, what is preventing me from experiencing this? The answer always involves fear of rejection. Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, requires the courage to disappoint others. Your shadow holds the person you would be if you weren't constantly trying to please.
Law 4. The law of encounter. You only know your shadow when it destroys you or when you confront it. Jung observed 2 ways in which the shadow reveals itself: the unintentional encounter, when it explodes, and the volunteer meeting, when you consciously seek it. The unintentional encounter is brutal. It's the moment when you do something you would never do. Betray someone you love, explode in disproportionate violence, sabotage something important. You look back in horror thinking, who was that person? That person was always there. You just pretended they weren't. But there is another way. The volunteer meeting. This is what Jung called to descend into hell consciously. It's about looking directly at your shadow, without denial, without justifications. It's about engaging in dialogue with the aspects of yourself that you fear most. This is the path of mythological heroes, to descend into the underworld, confront the monster, and return transformed. No longer innocent, but whole. No longer fragile, but integrated. Between 1913 and 1917, Jung went through something he called confrontation with the unconscious. He deliberately entered a state of active imagination, allowing figures from his shadow to emerge. He encountered dark characters, violent impulses, disturbing visions. But he didn't run away. He engaged in dialogue with them. He wrote everything down in what would become the Red Book, a psychological and spiritual manuscript about confronting the inner abyss. The result? Jung emerged with his most profound theory, individuation, the process of integrating all aspects of the psyche, including, especially, the shadow. He didn't become good, he became whole. Most people only discover their shadow after disaster strikes, after a devastating divorce, after the betrayal they swore they would never commit, after a nervous breakdown, after an addiction that appeared out of nowhere. But you can choose the conscious encounter. You can descend into hell of your own free will before hell comes to you. The arsenal, practical application. Technique, active imagination, Jungian method. 1. In a quiet place, close your eyes and invite your shadow to appear. 2. Ask, who are you? What do you want from me? 3. Let images, sensations, impulses emerge without censorship. 4. Write everything down, no matter how disturbing it may be. 5. Engage in dialogue with these figures as if they were real. To the unconscious, they are. This exercise can be intense. Jung recommended doing it only if you were psychologically prepared. But it's the most direct way to get to know yourself without filters.
Up to this point, you have learned why Sombra exists and how she controls your life without you realizing it. You saw that it is formed through civilizational repression, that it manifests itself through projections, that it grows proportionally to its persona, and that it holds both its demons and its unlived potential. But knowing the shadow is not enough. The real work is integrating it. Integration doesn't mean eliminating the shadow or becoming good. It means something far more radical and dangerous. Accept that you are capable of both light and darkness, and consciously choose which energy to channel at any given moment. Now we enter more advanced territory, the techniques of shadow integration which Jung developed. This is where philosophy becomes alchemy, where knowledge becomes transformation. Get ready, because the next level requires you to abandon the fantasy of being a good person and accept the far more powerful truth. You are a complete person.
Law 5. The reverse mirror technique. Transform every judgment into self-knowledge. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This is the daily practice of integrating the shadow, using the world as a mirror. Every person you meet, every emotional reaction you have, every judgment you make, all are portals to self-knowledge. The technique is simple, but psychologically brutal. Whenever you judge someone, turn the mirror on yourself. Not to blame yourself, but to get to know yourself. Is your colleague too fake? Where do you display fakeness? Is that influencer empty and narcissistic? Where are you looking for empty validation? Is your friend lazy? Where do you avoid responsibility? The shadow always reveals itself through others. It uses the external world as a projection screen. Here's the part that few have the courage to do. Be grateful to the people who annoy you. Not publicly, but internally. Because these people are your unwitting teachers. They show you the fragments of yourself that you need to integrate. The more someone irritates you, the more that person has to teach you about your own shadow. Jung took this so far that he said, there is no enlightenment in imagining figures of light, but in making the darkness conscious. The arsenal, practical application. Shadow diary, daily technique. Every night, write, who annoyed me today? What exactly did this person do? In what way do I do this, even if in a different way? In 30 days, you will have a complete map of your shadow, and, most importantly, you will have gathered his projections. You will no longer see others as villains, but as mirrors.
Law 6. The technique of the shadowy voice. Give voice to the unspoken. The shadow gains power when it is silenced. It becomes monstrous in the dark because it has never been allowed to speak. Jung developed a radical technique. Converse with your shadow as if it were a separate person. I'm not talking about positive thinking or empty affirmations. I'm talking about direct psychological confrontation. You need to give voice to the thoughts you would never admit to having. I want my friend to fail so I can feel better about myself. Part of me wants to be cruel to whoever hurt me. I fantasize about abandoning everything and disappearing. Are these disturbing thoughts? Yes. Are they real? Also yes. And suppressing them doesn't make them disappear. It only makes them unconscious and therefore more dangerous. Socrates said, know thyself. But how do you know yourself? Jung reversed the method. Instead of asking, who am I? Ask, who am I also? I am also selfish. I am also envious. I am also capable of cruelty. I am also cowardly in certain situations. I also desire power. I also want to be admired. The also is crucial. It's not, I am only this, nor I am none of that. It's, I contain multitudes. The most dangerous people are not those who admit to their shadows. They are those who believe they have none. The incorruptible politician, the enlightened spiritual leader, the morally superior activist, these inflated personas are ticking bombs. True psychological maturity is not about eliminating the shadow. It is to recognize that you are capable of everything you condemn in others, and consciously choose not to act on those impulses. There is a huge difference between I would never be able to do that, negation, and I could do that, but I choose not to, integration. The arsenal, practical application. Exercise, the shadow card. Write a letter to yourself, but sign it with your shadow. Let it speak freely, without censorship. What would it say? What does it accuse you of? What does it desire? Real-life examples of Jung's patience. You pretend to be humble, but you want to be adored. You call yourself generous, but everything you do is to be seen as good. You live lying to yourself about who you really are. Brutal? Yes. Necessary? Absolutely.
because the truth you don't want to hear is precisely the truth you need to integrate. Law 7. The technique of emotional alchemy. Use the energy of the shadow, don't repress it. Jung studied medieval alchemy in depth because he saw in it a perfect metaphor for psychological transformation. Alchemists weren't trying to eliminate lead, they were trying to transmute it into gold. The same applies to the shadow. Your repressed anger doesn't need to be eliminated, it needs to be channeled. Your envy doesn't need to be denied, it needs to be transformed into motivation. Your selfishness doesn't need to be destroyed, it needs to be directed toward healthy self-preservation. The shadow contains pure psychic energy. When repressed, this energy becomes destructive. When integrated, it becomes fuel for purpose. Malcolm X spent years in prison, consumed by anger, violence, and self-destruction, the unintegrated manifestation of the shadow. But instead of denying that anger, when he found purpose in it, he channeled it, transmuted it. The same intensity that drove him to violence became the force behind his activism. The same rebelliousness that landed him in prison became the courage to confront an oppressive system. He didn't eliminate his shadow, he integrated and channeled it. Jung would say he turned lead into gold. Do you feel anger? Don't repress it by pretending that feeling angry isn't spiritual. Ask yourself, what is this anger trying to tell me? What boundary was crossed? What injustice needs to be corrected? Do you feel envious? Don't deny it with, I should be happy for the success of others. Ask yourself, what does this envy reveal about my unfulfilled desires? What should I be pursuing? Are you afraid? Don't mask it with false courage. Ask yourself, what is this fear protecting? What vulnerability is it trying to avoid? Every dark emotion is a messenger. Killing the messenger does not eliminate the message. Listening to the messenger transforms the message into wisdom. The arsenal, practical application. Technique, alchemical dialogue with emotions. When you feel an intense negative emotion, 1. Name it. Without judgment, I am feeling anger, envy, or fear. 2. Personify. If this anger were a person, what would it be trying to tell me? 3. Extract the wisdom. What constructive action can I take with this energy? 4. Canalize. Transform anger into boundaries, envy into ambition, fear into preparation. Jung said, there is no light without shadow, and there is no psychic wholeness without imperfection. Law 8. The dark purpose technique. Your true calling lies where you resist the most. Here we arrive at the heart of the matter. How does shadow reveal its purpose? Jung believed that the process of individuation, becoming who you truly are, doesn't happen by following outside advice or prefabricated models of success. It happens by confronting precisely what you avoid. Your purpose is not in your comfort zone, it's in your resistance zone. What are you most afraid to reveal about yourself? That's where your authenticity lies. What do you most avoid doing despite feeling a secret attraction to it? That's where your potential lies. Which ambition do you call selfish or impossible? That's where your calling lies. Jung said something radical. Neurosis is suffering that has not found its meaning. Translation: your suffering, your inner struggles, your shadows are not obstacles to your purpose. They are your purpose, begging to be lived. Jung himself experienced this. After breaking with Freud, he faced years of isolation, self-doubt, and fear of going insane. His shadow emerged in full force, disturbing visions, a feeling of inner chaos. He could have returned to the safety of the Freudian method. He could have repressed these experiences as pathological. But he did the opposite. He plunged into them. He explored them. He documented them. And from this confrontation with his own shadow, something completely new was born. Analytical psychology, the concept of individuation, the theory of the collective unconscious. His legacy did not come from his certainties, it came from his courage to explore his own darkness.
Pay attention to your forbidden what-ifs. What if I dropped everything and did what I really want? What if I stopped trying to please people and just said what I think? What if I pursued that impossible ambition? These what-ifs aren't fantasies, they're calls. They're fragments of your true purpose trying to emerge from the shadow. But you've labeled them irresponsible, selfish, impossible, because they threaten the persona you've built. Jung would be direct. You are afraid of your own size. It's not fear of failure. It's fear of to succeed and prove that you were always capable, but chose not to try. The arsenal, practical application. Final exercise, the forbidden purpose. 1. Complete. If I weren't afraid, 2. Complete. The life I truly want but never admit is 3. Complete. If I died today, my biggest regret would be not having. The answers you gave are not fantasies. They are messages from your shadow. They represent the unlived life, the unrealized potential, the repressed purpose. Jung said, "The greatest and most important adventure in human life is the journey towards oneself." This journey doesn't go over the shadow, it goes through it. Carl Jung dedicated his life to a disturbing truth. You will never be happy trying to be only good. You will only be complete when you accept that you are also capable of evil. The shadow is not your enemy. It is the exiled part of yourself, guarding both your demons and your unlived potential. It grows in the dark not because it is evil, but because you abandon it there. Integrating the shadow does not mean to act on each destructive impulse. It means recognize that you possess them, understand their origin, and consciously choose what to do with that energy. It's the difference between being naively good and exploding in self-sabotage, and being consciously complete and choose the light, knowing that you also contain darkness. Your true purpose isn't where you're comfortable. It's where you resist. It's in the ambitions you called crazy, in the talents you suppressed, in the authenticity you sacrificed, in the version of yourself you never allowed yourself to be. The shadow is not the end of the journey. It is the portal. Jung would end his sessions with a question. Would you rather be unconsciously controlled by your shadow or consciously integrated with it? The choice has always been yours. The shadow doesn't wait for permission to exist. It already exists. The only question is, will you get to know her while you still have the choice, or will you wait for her to reveal herself when you least expect it?